Joker. You can see the Joker there. And the Joker, I'm sorry guys, it's the Mark Hamill voice. It's not me, I promise. Hey, friends, revolutionaries! It's out. It is out, and some of you may have seen it. Some of you may not. I have, of course, I have. I've seen it, and if I can just get my headset or a headset working on my computer, I'll really get into what I think of the series so far. These first 5 episodes. As it stands, is it good? No. Not really, no. Is it bad? No. It's there. It exists. It's there. There's certainly more bad than good. And for every good, there's a bad that goes with it. And I don't want I don't want to get off on a tangent about it. It's just been brimming over and over in my mind all these things about it that I like, but at the same time it's kind of like, but that's so bad. So it's really hard for me to talk about the series. We're talking about the figure for the series and not get way off in the weeds, which I don't want to do. I want to do a video dedicated to the episodes. I will say 2 things. I want to say 2 things up front. It's a marquee cast. The voice talent in it is amazing. The people they've got playing, I mean, just Alicia Silverstone plays Queen Marlena. I just want to put that out there because if you've seen the episodes, she kills it. She doesn't have much. And between the way the animators animate the character and the way Alicia Silverstone acts it, that she kills it in her small role. Queen Marlena was awesome. That was some heavy-hitting stuff. Now, the 2 biggest names, the ones they've touted the most, Mark Hamill. We'll get, God bless Mark Hamill. God bless that nerd. It's something where it's a shame that he has that. You can't see him in live action without thinking Luke Skywalker. You know, it's just something where he's just visually he's so linked with that character, especially since he's reprised the character in his old. Now that he's older, even more now, his younger self and his older self really do go back to that Luke Skywalker when you see him in person. His voice acting work, and he's done quite a bit of voice acting work. And the fact that he is the iconic voice, arguably, I would not say otherwise, I would say definitively, but for those of people who may not quite agree, I would say arguably, he is the quintessential Joker. And it's just a shame that, I don't know if it was his choice, the director's choice, I don't know whose choice it was for him to use that more menacing Joker tone. You know, it's like you think he's going to crack into a laugh at any minute, but that more ominous Joker tone is what was used for Skeletor. And that is a shame because it is just so, it's the Joker. It's the Joker, and you can't get around the sound and any of it. It so takes me out of the show to hear Mark Hamill voice Skeletor with the Joker's voice. It just really takes me out. I don't want to see him recast Mark Hamill because I'm sure he can do a different take on it. But please, please get away from that Joker voice, please. The other big name, and this is the last thing I'm going to say on it, because I don't want to dig on Mark Hamill for what he's done, because again, I think he has a lot of talent, and his portrayal of Skeletor definitely can improve. But Sarah Michelle Gellar's performance as Teela, I've never thought Sarah Michelle Gellar was a good actress. I never thought so. I always thought she was so flat in how she delivers lines. She can read lines. She can read lines. But her delivery of those lines, when she's acting in front of the camera, the acting and the action and everything kind of hides the fact that she's not really doing very well as far as reading them with any kind of emotion or passion. And putting her behind a mic for an animated series, I don't know if she's ever done anything else for voice work, but this, phoning it in is being generous. She is the wrong voice for Teela. She may be able to you may be able to salvage the role if you can get her to put a little, energy into what she says, make her actually sound like she cares about, what it is that the character is saying. But as it stands, marquee cast, fantastic cast. Mark Hamill Skeletor. It's so painfully funny to listen to. It really is. But Sarah Michelle Gellar, there's no entertaining funny about it. She's just bad. And that's all I'm going to say, because we're going to talk about the figure. We're going to talk about Skeletor the figure. Just had to get that out there, because of everything about the show, that's what bothers me the most. The voice acting of those two characters, for different reasons. But getting on to the figure, which is why I'm sure you all are actually here, is we're taking a look at the next of the, Netflix original series Masterverse, which I did notice at no point they refer to it as the Masterverse. They did have that red vintage, that blue and red kind of background that you get on the vintage figures, on those retro figures. They had that. Why it didn't carry over, at least into the background on the card in the figure, I don't understand. I don't understand where that disconnect comes from. I've heard that Mattel doesn't have full rights to the cartoon creation for He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. So anything that Mattel Television does has to have a certain amount of difference to it. But when you're releasing an action figure line based on that series, why it didn't draw as much from it, I don't know. Maybe, I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe Mattel just didn't know. They just didn't know how that show was going to be, how it was going to be presented. So when they create the figures and the packaging, which, there we go, Skeletor, Evo Lord of Destruction, Master Universe Revelations, I'll explain this in a minute. Maybe they just didn't know. So that's why this is such generic box art. But yeah, and nowhere on there does it say, Masterverse. It does say Master of the Universe Revelations. It doesn't even really have that same kind of font to it. Something similar, but not quite the same. It's a mystery. It's strange. It's weird. It's interesting. I'll say that. It's interesting. As I said before, the packaging is nothing to write home about. Got the nice large window so we can see what the character looks like. No dimple, and I'm never going to let that go until they release another series that I know they'll put the dimple in the next series. I'm almost positive, because I've seen other reviewers saying the same thing. It's not Master Universe if you don't have the dimple. Of all the figures, of the 6 figures that have come out for this premiere of the Revelation series, the only one that I've seen consistently on shelves has been Skelegod. The only original character created for the show, his figure has consistently been on shelves. He has turned into a peg warmer. Not surprised, but yeah, he has no history. There's no connection to the series. So he's become kind of a peg warmer. The four, I guess I use the word mains because there are other characters that are much more regular in the series, but these four I saw one time, once, and I have not seen again anywhere. I grabbed these when I saw them. I grabbed them, boom, right away, because I have not seen them on shelves anywhere else. And unfortunately, the only Skeletor that I had left to choose from had this kind of ripped bottom piece here. It doesn't have. There's nothing underneath that seems to be important that could have been stolen or taken from the store. It's just, I think that in someone's enthusiasm to take a look at it, or in the packing or unpacking of the crates, it got torn. Not a big deal, because as I said, these aren't packages that I plan on keeping figures in. I don't really have much of an interest to keep unopened versions of them. If I find some, maybe if I see them again, but for the most part, no. This is just packaging to be thrown out. Which for Skeletor is a bit of a disappointment, because this is a great piece of art. You know, if anybody who pays attention to my channel, or even just watches that opening, you know that whole idea of the flame with the sparkle, the crackling embers. I like that a lot, and seeing it, from down here in the corner, to the Havoc Staff, Crossbones, and then Skeletor with that purple Eternian sky and moon in the background. That is a great portrait, and a piece of art that I would really appreciate having. One that I think I would be happy to purchase a poster version of. Even this side right here, again, totally original, not just a larger expanded version of it. Whole other picture of Skeletor. Not quite as good, but still nice. Get the energy coming off the Havoc Staff. Skeletor with Snake Mountain. Very nice print. Very nice piece of art. I think the art by itself would be the only reason it would be worth keeping. But that would be the only reason. The write-up says, Skeletor, evil Lord of Destruction. For ages, Skeletor's ravaged the land and terrorized the people of Eternia in his quest to capture all of the power in the universe for himself. Now the nefarious Scourge of Eternia plots his final hostile takeover of Castle Grayskull. With dark magic, devious technology, and an army of loyal subjects at his back, this sinister sorcerer believes this time nothing can stop him, not even He-Man. He's not wrong. in the lore of the show, he's not wrong. It's an interesting story. I will say again, it's not bad. It's not good. It's not good. But where they're taking the story is interesting. I'm very interested to see what happens next. I am a supporter of new episodes. And from what I've seen, IMDb actually shows there's I think 10 more episodes that are already listed. Doesn't tell you anything about them, but they're listed. So, there are definitely more that are on the way, apparently. But I'd like to see. I really want to see. As we were taking a look at earlier, the other figures that are in the first wave are He-Man, Mossman, Skeletor, and Evil Lyn. With a Series 2 coming out, I expect there to be a Wave 2 set. I would imagine that Teela, Man-at-Arms, Beastman, and Orko, those will be the four that I would really expect, based on what I've seen so far, to be the ones to see. Maybe not Orko. Man-at-Arms and Teela for sure. Those are guarantees. Teela is a guarantee. Man-at-Arms, I would hope Man-at-Arms. If not Man-at-Arms, Roboto. So Man-at-Arms or Roboto for slot number 2. Tila's venturing buddy. What's her name? I don't know. Apparently, she's a reinterpretation from the 2000X version. Forgot her name, but I can see her coming into it. And then Beastman, simply because they need a villain. There needs to be a villain in the next series, and Beastman is the only one that really seems to have a big enough role in the show, other than Skeletor and Evil Lyn. So Beastman and Tila, almost for sure. I would imagine Tila's whatever her friend's name is, and then Roboto, Man at Arms, Orko. One of those three. I'd like to see Orko in there, but for the sake of the character and the story, Man at Arms or Roboto would probably make a little bit more sense. Hey, if they do all of them, I will be there if they do all of them. Man at Arms, Roboto, Tila, what's her name, Beastman, and Orko. 6. That's not out of line. There are 6 figures in the first series. Those 6 in series 2, that could be done. I think that could be done, and that would be very cool. But yeah, I've gone on enough. This is going to be a long video if I keep getting off distracted by the show. Stick around. We'll pop Skeletor out of the pack, take a look, and have some fun. Be right back. All right. Here's our chance to take a look at the newest version of the Lord of Destruction, Skeletor. Not a bad figure. Not a bad figure at all. Probably my favorite so far. So far, I think, other than one baffling choice on the design, which is that right there. I like this Skeletor. I think this is a good Skeletor. I wouldn't say he's the most iconic Skeletor, but certainly my second favorite I've come across. You know, between all the various iterations of the Master Universe figures, I would say this is probably my second favorite, next to the Classics line. Very, very cool. It does trend a little close to that 2000X over hyper detailed look, but I allow that for just the fact that it's modernized. They're modernizing it. They didn't go way overboard like that show did, but the skull is kind of on that line. Unlike Skelegod, he doesn't have the pupils in his eyes, which is always good. I don't think you should ever put pupils in a skull, or in very rare occasions. Mostly for jokes. I think it mostly works for jokes. But a skull, you really don't want to put eyeballs in a skull. It's a bit disappointing to take a look that there is a little bit of overpaint on the skull where his jaw is, where that black is on the jaw. And it's not exactly a paint color that would be easy to match. So that extra little bit of overpaint there, kind of disappointing. I don't know if that was on all Skeletors. That's his good side. That, not so much. But yeah, still a great sculpt on the face. The hood is nice. You can make out some textures on it. Really good. Really good. Kind of got that imp kind of point coming out the front there. Got that goblin kind of thing going. That Grim Reaper sort of thing, which is what Skeletor really is. He's really a Grim Reaper kind of character. He's got the tassels off his shoulders, kind of in individual sculpted pieces, not just one solid piece like we'll see with the other Skeletors in the past. Here they actually go through and do them as individual little tassels. Not bad. Has his simple bat pattern, which is ultimately going to harken to his time with the Horde. But that's nice to see. It's not overly complex or overly done. It's very traditional. I like it. I like the colors. I like the deeper purple underneath with the lighter purple trim. The crossbones, I don't quite get why. I'm sure it has to do with the way the cape, and it's a fabric cape. Modern versions of Skeletor all seem to have capes. I don't know why. I think if you take away the cape, I think the design works just fine without the cape. But instead, they give him a cape. They give Skeletor a cape that he doesn't need, that he does not need. It's a nice fabric cape. Don't get me wrong. It's a nice fabric cape, but I'm almost sure that the cape itself is part of the reason why you've got this harness underneath that has the bottom half of the crossbones, and then the top part here with the top part of the crossbones that kind of lay on top of it. Why did they did that in two separate pieces? I'm not sure, because you can see here in the back on the harness, this is where it pegs in here on the back. So why they didn't just go ahead and use this purple dot as the peg and let it peg into it so it holds itself in place, I don't know. The fact that this is kind of free floating in the front, it doesn't work. It does not work. You can kind of see what they're going for, but it really doesn't work. The ridges on his arms, again, very iconic Skeletor, or at least iconic to the versions that I think are the modern versions. Old Skeletor just had these little points. Here they actually give him like forearm ridges. The belt, it's not quite the traditional kind of Skeletor belt. Everything is he doesn't have shaggy shorts. He actually has kind of these black leather straps, not the purple kind of loincloth sort of thing, which is okay. I mean, it still conveys the character. It still works. He's got the shin guards with his bare clawed feet. Again, iconic Skeletor. Like it, like it, like it. The color's good. Everything comes together. I think Skeletor is probably one of the reasons why the Masters of the Universe series endures for as long as it has. It is a classic villain design with colors that just work together almost every time. It looks really nice. Much like the other figures that are in the series, his head is on a ball joint. The arms come up and out. Got the twist at the forearm, double joint at the elbow, twist at the wrist with a hinge, which is a little on the tight side. I don't want to force it too much. The joints on these figures have been rather tight. I've had to heat a couple of spots up before starting the video just to feel comfortable moving them. No, didn't happen on his upper torso. The upper torso is actually pretty loose. Large range of movement there. I didn't mention on He-Man, but just like with Skelegod, he does have a twist at the waist, as does the He-Man, which I think I forgot to mention on the video. Leg comes up and out. About the same as He-Man. Not quite as far as I was thinking. Large enough to mount Panther, I'm sure. There we go. There we go. Like I said, it's a little difficult to get the joint moving at first, but it does have fairly decent range of movement once you get it going. There's a twist at the thigh. Double hinge at the knee. And like He-Man, this one foot, very loose. Same on this one here. So, not as bad, I guess, on the He-Man figure, but still pretty loose. Hinge at the foot, and got the pivot. So far, same articulation as the other figures. No reason to expect anything different. Like I said with He-Man, you know, it's going to be the same body type. So, of course, same range of articulation, just painted up differently with different kinds of accessories. Now, I'm not sure. It sure looks like it, but it looks as though that the shin guards here, no, maybe they're sculpted. Maybe they are sculpted. Yep, they're sculpted on there. I was thinking that, like He-Man and his gauntlet, that his shin guards on his legs would be kind of a separate accessory, but it's not. It is sculpted on there. So the arms will be reused, I suppose, whereas the legs, not so much. Kind of individualized. Interesting. Okay. Oh, on the on the accessories, we'll get to it. But on the accessories, the two that he comes with, the first is the shaping staff, which I could do a whole video on the shaping staff. It was a good episode. It's on YouTube. Watch it. It's a great episode. Much like I think going back to Star Trek for a moment, or talking about Star Trek, or just to bring it up real quick, the shaping staff episode is sort of like Space Seed from the original Star Trek, kind of making a return appearance here. It is kind of a bit of an Easter egg from the old Master of the Universe series. How that episode ended and how the staff got to be where it is here, no explanation. There is an explanation to it. It's never told. It's not explained between the two. But it's a good episode. I highly recommend watching. It definitely gives you a more appreciation for this Netflix series, or what happens with the shaping staff. So no spoilers, but I do recommend, if you've watched the Netflix episode and you haven't already seen the shaping staff episode from the original series, it's on Netflix. I'll put it in the link on the bottom. I'll look it up and put a link on the bottom. Watch it. It is probably one of the better of those original series. It was actually really good. But it comes in just kind of this goldish orange color. Kind of this Ankh kind of style. It's more of a Evelyn style weapon. We won't put it in his hand yet. We'll talk about the hands in a minute. We'll do the two weapons once we get the hands. Once we talk about the hands. I do want to get to the Havoc Staff though, because the Havoc Staff, it is certainly much more modernized than the original. For the amount of difference they've done between Skeletor here and his classic version versus his Havoc Staff itself, this has made huge leaps over the original version. I'm not making a big deal about it, except to say that it just seems to me that it's harmless, but it really goes to show that they're trying to modernize as much as they can, and to make things different for whatever legal situation's going on. I'm going to go back to the shaping staff again real quick. As I was saying, the original episode, this was more of an Evelyn weapon. So when I saw this in the packaging, I kind of wondered if they were going to be maybe crossing over some accessories from one to the other. Like Evelyn may have an accessory that's better suited for Skeletor, where Skeletor has an accessory better suited for Evelyn. Not really. Not that I can tell. Not that I can tell. But getting the Havoc Staff out of the pack, and again, we'll put it in his hand here once we switch out the hands. But talking about the Havoc Staff, much different than the original. Let's bring in the classics Skeletor. And actually, let's mostly pull out the Havoc Staff. Whoop. Clunk. And what? So long as we're doing comparisons, here's the retro Masters of the Universe Skeletor. We'll pull out his Havoc Staff and see kind of an evolution of the accessory. Kind of see how it's developed over time. I think that's very true to the original Havoc Staff from the original figure. Almost like Mickey Mouse ears versus the ram horns. Here, they push the horns back, kind of give them some space. Made the skull much clearer, much more identifiable, but still kept kind of the ridges here and the ball at the end. So evolution from here to here, from infant to from toddler to child, and then from child to adult. Child, teenager, grown up. And yeah, you can really see they push the horns even further back. Really worked hard to make sure that the teeth and the sculpt of the skull comes out even more. We're even more identifiable as far as the jaw, the eye sockets, the nose. And they changed kind of these ridges here, kind of these rings, to something more akin to what you see on Skeletor's forearms. They also got rid of the circle on the bottom, giving it more kind of just a diamond-shaped base sort of thing. I would have liked to have seen the circle. I like to see the ball at the end. It seems iconic now for the Havoc Staff to kind of have a ball at the end. For the new one to kind of just end like this, yeah, it seems a bit boring. Also, you can see where the staff went from kind of a blue to a purple to kind of this light purple color, kind of this mix of colors. Matching purple on the horns, a more skull color on the skull, and then this lighter purple on the staff. Yeah, you can see kind of the evolution of the Havoc Staff. And I want to just kind of talk about that. I want to talk about the Havoc Staff like that first, because like I was saying with the Shaping Staff, and how I thought this was more of an Evelyn accessory, it does turn out, whether intentional or not, that on this particular Havoc Staff, the ram's head does pop off. You can remove the ram's head. And this is important. If you've watched the show, you know the fact this comes off is actually kind of important. And this does become, or can become, a nifty little accessory for Evelyn. And that's all I'll say. Because there are several places this can be reused in future figures and sets and series and so forth. The fact they made the Havoc Staff, whether intentional or not, the fact they made it the ability for it to be removed is actually a really great touch. I really do like that. But yeah, let's move the Skeletors off to the side. The Havoc Staff back up here. And let's talk about those hands. Now Skeletor has an extra set of hands. All the figures in this series so far do. The ones he comes with is the closed fist. So, you know, you can get that shaking fist Skeletor. Not really a pose I expected I would use a lot. So a closed fisted Skeletor, I guess that's nice. I guess that's good to have, just for variety. But really not one that I'm going to use very much. Bafflingly, there is the one. The other hand is a half closed hand, which, you know, is obviously for holding his accessory. But I'm a little baffled by the fact that the other one that's kind of this half closed has this sort of trigger finger. Like at some point Skeletor is going to be holding a gun. I guess, you know, you could put that in there and make it more of a, hey, come here. You know, I guess you could do it that way. I mean, that works. that works, but it looks so much more like Skeletor is actually holding a gun, or that you can put a gun in his hand. Is something going to come up that way? Is that going to lead to something? I don't know. But to be generous, yeah. Hey, come here. that is the best I can explain why we get this kind of finger instead of kind of these two semi-closed hands. He does come with an open hand, kind of reminiscent of his vintage figure. And I don't really know much reason why, again, you'd have kind of an open hand. From the show, there's a few things that happen that I might understand why, even though you don't really see it happen with Skeletor. But for him to have an open hand like this is, other than to harken back to an earlier version of the figure, again, I don't know. I don't know why we would have an open hand. Seems a bit odd. But yeah, if we go ahead and we take his accessories, you can take the shaping staff here. And you can put the Havoc Staff in here. I'd say that is a pretty good representation of our Netflix Skeletor. I think that's really nice and that's really good. Kind of bringing in the other Skeletors just because people like comparisons. Let's go ahead and put it in his hand here and take a look. Well, let's first do this. I still don't understand why the Retro Skeletor has the open mouth. Why they give him this jaw, this open jaw head, I don't get. It seems really weird. That's not the way the vintage figure was. But to kind of bring the two Skeletors, the previous incarnations in, you can see there is the yellowish face with the green shadow in the back, and then the red glow in the eyes. Not pupils, but kind of a red glow. It's got his bat symbol on there, which has been consistent with all the versions. All three of these versions all have that same bat style, that same bat emblem. And I like that. Again, it shows some restraint in the design versus what we've seen in that 2000X version. The crossbone version has the studs on the side of his harness. He does have his shaggy shorts with his loincloth on both. Colors, not sure if it comes across on the camera. The retro figure is a slightly lighter color than the Master Universe Classics version. But you can really say, comparing the two together, how this was really a modernized version of this. And that's what I like. And that's why I still say that when it comes to the definitive versions, definitive modern versions of the old series, the Master Universe Classics version is still the one you want to get. This is still the preferred version of Skeletor. This is still your best version you'll find. Even if you get the one that's with $1 with a missing tooth, or the one that came packed with what is it, Lex Luthor in that 2-pack. The one that doesn't quite have as nicely sculpted or colored. It's still an iconic version of Skeletor, and one that I would recommend picking up, the Mastervers Classics. Bringing in this Netflix version, well, undeniably it's the same character. Certainly modernized. All the elements are still there, for the most part. Again, just like with the vintage version, the Mastervers Classic is slightly lighter in tone than the Netflix version. You know, that is darkening the colors of the character, but it still works. It still works just fine. I think that the purple with the wash over it here versus the flat purple, even though it has some of the black accents, I think that the wash here is actually nicer. I wish the face were done more in this color and style, with the red glow in his eyes. I don't know. I think the face is coming dangerously close to that 2000X series. A little high on detail, less on kind of classic. But I can let that slide. I can let that slide because, again, everything else seems to have done pretty well. It seemed to be done pretty well. Again, bringing in another figure, his God mode. See if we can zoom out a little bit here. There we are, Skelegod with Skeletor. Megatron and Galvatron, if you will. I guess that kind of makes sense that that Skelegod would have a cape, considering they insisted on giving a cape to Skeletor. I don't think he needed it, but they did. They seem to think they need to. Like, he has to have a cape. And then if we take Skelegod out, set him aside for just a moment, we'll bring in He-Man. And I think they look good together. I think the two figures fit. Clearly from the same line. It's not quite like, you know, one is overly done one way and the other one isn't. One's too toony, one is too real. The theme between them seems consistent. So again, in terms of the figures, I am happy with them. I think other than this part of Skeletor's armor, the crossbones that just will not line up right for long, save that, he is a good figure. Goes well with He-Man. We'll go ahead and we'll get a look at the last three figures. We're at the halfway point here, so we've got three more left to go, and I'm going to do my best to try and, like I said, get my headset working on my computer and kind of give you some thoughts on the series. Get more in depth about it. If you like to hear me rant, you'll get the chance. In the meantime, hope you enjoy watching. Rate, comment, subscribe, join the revolution. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.